This next section, we're getting into not just my favorite species, but everybody's favorite subspecies, category or whatever. Everybody. All right. I'm talking octopus, I'm talking cuttlefish, and I'm talking squids. Does it get any better than that? Let's see. In this section, you will witness some of my favorite critters with me. First and foremost, the wonderpuss. Now these are no strangers to this channel, as we seek them out regularly, and in the months of October, November, and even December, we can find multiple ones on a daily basis. I remember on one particular dive, I saw no less than 35 octopus in one 60-minute dive, with 6 of them being wonderpusses themselves. The wonderpuss is one of the ocean's most fascinating little predators. They're found across the Indo-Pacific and obviously right here in Dauin. It's known for its long, thin arms and bold orange and white patterns that seem to change before your eyes. Each wonderpuss has a unique pattern, almost like a fingerprint, making it easy for scientists to identify individuals. By day, they often hide in the sand or in small burrows, poking their head out to watch for crabs, shrimp, and small fish. Or if they have to, they'll glide around the seafloor using their arms like nets. I've seen them hover over a crab and envelop it with its arms and pin it to its mouth where it can nibble away. What's especially amazing is how gracefully they move, gliding and flowing across the seabed with a slow, mesmerizing rhythm. And as you can see, they sport those color-changing abilities that cephalopods are known for, using them to either blend in, dazzle their prey, or confuse their predators. The first time I saw a wonderpuss, I was very surprised at how small they actually are. Filming them with the macro lens really doesn't show the true size, it just looks big. But their entire body, if you rolled it into a ball, legs and all, would barely be bigger than a golf ball. When you think of octopuses, maybe from a David Attenborough documentary, you picture them being size of a basketball. They never truly cover these tiny guys that we have in Dauin on those Netflix documentaries. Although coconut octopuses aren't as colorful as most other species, they are a big favorite for divers just because of their funny behaviors. At nearly all times, you'll see them using shells or coconut pieces or old cans or whatever as makeshift shelters, just like this guy's doing now. Now, coconut octopus get quite a bit bigger than wonderpusses and blue rings, maybe even 4 or 5 times their size. As I have said, we have a lot of different octopus species around Dauin, and once you start to learn their individual behaviors, it will make each of them easier to find. For example, a mimic will be shy and just poke his eyes out of the sand. A blue ring or matodi will sit out in the open on a rock, perfectly mimicking that rock so that you can barely see him unless he moves. The coconut puss puts a lot of faith in whatever they decide to make their home, so you'll see them poking their heads out of old Spam cans, half a coconut shell, a clam shell, or anything else they fancy. When we first ran into this guy, he must have been in between homes, and we caught him out in the open. He made us all laugh at our regulators, probably like you're laughing at him now, as we watched him use 2 or 3 of his tentacles as legs and walk around the seabed like a human. Why doesn't he just swim off? Have you ever seen an octopus walk around upright like Squidward from SpongeBob? After a while, he stopped walking around, so I offered him a clamshell I found. At first, it seemed like he wasn't interested, but eventually he just couldn't help himself and moved right in. With his arms, he attaches his suction cups to the shell and puts them around his body like shields. Once he was moved into his new house, He decided he didn't like the neighborhood, and luckily for him, it was a mobile home. He's free to move locations, house and all, but for this big shell, it might take all 8 legs to walk to the new suburb. This has to take a bit of coordination. I can barely handle 2 feet sometimes. I'm gonna let this guy go for now. He clearly is going to want to take a nap after all this house moving. Algae and long-arm octopuses are 2 separate species that can be very hard to tell apart. They also show up at the same time as wonderpuses and blue rings around October, and can even be seen real near each other, making it even more hard to discern them apart. As I've said, octopus season gets hot from October to December, and we can see loads of them. I will put a list of known octopus species that have been spotted here, most of which are fairly common during the time. I think I mentioned before that each species has its own personality and traits and behaviors, not to mention how different they are in appearance. What does this mean to me personally? Well, in both the nudibranch and the crustacean section of this video, I probably mentioned that because of the huge number of individual and unique species of each of the genres, every dive is like a treasure hunt, and you never know what you're gonna find. Take birding for comparison. Birders have their list of bird species that they want to observe in the wild, and it's no different for us divers. The only real difference is we have way more species to hunt for. In fact, no diver will ever see them all, so the real fun is in the journey. This guy was playing hide and seek like a pro when I came up. It's amazing how he can mimic every grain of sand and little pebble around him, making him nearly impossible to see. He's a pretty shy dude as well. This lionfish would love to take a bite out of an octopus. They're known for wandering around the rubble and snatching little fish or an octopus leg here and there. This dude better stay hidden. Besides wonderpusses, my other favorites are blue rings, and they're even smaller. These guys deserve a video of their own, so I'm going to save the rest of my blue ring footage for an upcoming episode. I wish I could identify this species, but it seems it was a young juvenile that's been hanging around the area, sort of like a nursery. Cuttlefish are cool, but there is nothing as awesome as a flamboyant cuttlefish. These guys are currently tied with the wonderpuss as my all-time favorite creature of the sea, and since I see them more often, they might even be winning at this point. I mean, who wouldn't love a face like this? Unlike most cuttlefish, it walks on the seafloor using its arms and ventral fins rather than swimming continuously. This is due to its limited buoyancy, as its cuttlebone is reduced and porous, making it too dense for neutral buoyancy. So, if you're a good diver, you can say you have better buoyancy than a flamboyant. Now let's get a little scientific here. Flamboyant cuttlefish have 3 layers of skin cells responsible for its crazy color changes. Chromatophores, or pigment sacs, iridophores, reflective platelets producing iridescence, and leucophores, basically white scattering cells. They can flash complex color displays in milliseconds using neurocontrol over chromatophore expansion mediated by motor neurons from the optic lobes. Those color patterns are used for camouflage or communication and predator deterrence. However, after lots of observation over the years, I've seen them do a flashing, crazy strobe kind of thing when they see a shrimp they're about to eat, and it appears to me that they're trying to mesmerize the shrimp for a second so that it doesn't move, kind of like hypnotizing it. Whatever the reason, anything these guys do is awesome. Flambos are actually toxic to eat. Scientists still don't know the exact nature of its toxin, but it's believed to rival that of the blue ring octopus. Being toxic or poisonous actually makes a little sense, because in my experience, there's 3 types of fish in the world. They're either really fast swimmers, or really good hiders, or they're toxic. And for what I've seen, you can usually tell the ones that are toxic because they sport bright colors to advertise so. Same with nudibranch and other critters out there. I also ran into this flambeau. What's interesting about this dude is he must have been attacked by an eel or something at some point, because he seems to be missing his tentacle, and this can make life a little more difficult when you need to do some walking. Regular cuttlefish like these broad clubs are much more common. I've even seen them in spread out groups of maybe 20 or 30 in just a 20-foot radius. Although flamboyants are the only known cuttlefish to be toxic, broad clubs have a lot of similar traits, starting with that camo ability that cephalopods love, and that we're all fascinated by. They're also the type to walk along the seafloor rather than swim. However, when spooked, they do have the ability to dart away, more like a squid would. The way they swim reminds me of a jet ski. As you can see, they don't have a tail like most fish. Rather, they have jets, where they blow out water enough to propel themselves backwards away from the predator. When broad clubs are younger, they tend to be solitary, and then they do not have that confidence that being in groups gives you. They tend to be much more shy, like this little guy. I did mention squid before, so obviously we need to show them here. This is a reef squid, and on the size chart, this particular one is maybe 5 inches long. However, they do get slightly bigger. They are easier to film at night, because they like to use our lights to hunt. But even during the day, I've encountered schools of 100 or more just hovering around outside the resort, at around 5 or 10 meters. Bobtail squids don't just show up for cephalopod season starting in October. They can be found in the shallow sands and grassy areas on a lot of different dive sites in Dauin year-round. If you really want to film these tiny wonders, I'll go do a night dive out in front of Critter Republic Resort and just search the grasses. You have to be quick though, because as soon as the light hits them, they're famous for burying themselves in the sand and using 2 arms to cover themselves up.